Welcome. Monday, May 13th, 2019. I'd like to call the Charlotte Select Board meeting to order. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? 601, the selection of a contractor for the playground reconstruction. So we only had, we had a formal bid process. We only had one contractor come in with two designs. Nicole, do you want to elaborate?
Justin's been kind of working with us on different playground ideas, projects, and what we're doing. And so we kind of had a project in mind that's in your notes. But I think since then there's been there's going to be possible changes.
Design changes?
Yeah. So the donor was not fully approving of the design that we have right now. So we're kind of going, I think, back to the drawing board. I don't know if Bill, you want to elaborate?
I think one of the things we're looking to do is to have the playground really be accessible to all age groups and to be as accessible as possible within the budget that we have. And so there's, surfacing is kind of one of the price point differences between completely accessible and then also having enough elements that it's an interesting playground to all age groups. So in the past week and a half, I think one of the things I wanted to bring to the board is because we only have one contractor who submitted two designs, and it seems like there's still some more design work to do. One thing we could do is to approve the contractor, but not commence any contractual work until the design is kind of worked out with the commission and the recreation director, the donors, and then come back to the town with a design proposal that stays within our original budget.
And what I heard you say at one meeting, it was the last meeting, I can't remember that far back, it was that, because I asked you, this really is the only vendor in our area of this type of equipment, right? So we weren't really expecting multiple bids here.
Correct.
Okay.
So what I'd like, if I might say something, what's happened is that the donors have looked at our final proposal, and obviously had been out of state. They've been semi-apprised of it going along, and they have a quite legitimate concern that our design was not of a broad enough spectrum of age ranges. And so we've gone back to the drawing board, as Nicole said, and I think we're really actually very, very close to being ready for a design. And it's sort of a question of whether you, as the select board, want to approve the final design, maybe? Or do you want to approve a budget maximum? Do you wish to give us the leeway to, with the donors, the rec commission, and Nicole, come up with a design if you've approved it, if you then approve the contractor? Again, what we're trying to do is expedite. And the reason we're trying to expedite, we're in a 2-month ordering window to start construction. And if we can come up with a design within the next couple of days, which I think we can, which will be acceptable to the donors, if we could initiate something without having to come back to you, that would be beneficial from a time perspective. But that's, I don't know how you want to work that.
I'm personally more comfortable seeing a final product before, design product, before approving it kind of blindly. One thing I was going to bring up with the board during select board updates Is there several kind of time-sensitive issues that I'd like to see if there's a time next week that we could set up another special meeting? A draft review of the MOU with the library would be one. This would be another that we could look at. So I think from a time sensitivity, we don't have to wait till the June 3rd Select Board meeting.
That would be wonderful if we could be included in whatever conversations you have going forward as soon as we have something for you.
Okay, so let's plan on, we'll get in touch if it's going to be next Monday or a different day next week. And I'd say just keep moving forward with the design process. And we'll revisit this next week.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
When you say all ages, do you mean my husband? He's a kid at heart. No, just
No. What we're looking at, what's happened, Louise, is that what we've come up with, we're trying to provide a type of a playground that is not duplicated in every playground within the vicinity, shall we say. And we did, and unfortunately, it is probably, and we had a lot of children involved in this design, a lot of public input, and we probably erred on the side of ages that were more represented at our public meetings. So we're trying to now tone it down a little bit from say 5 to 12 to 2, another adding in some 2 to 8, 2 to 7, 2 to 5, younger kids.
Great.
Fair enough.
Robert?
I got a question on the process of the bid. How did you go out for a bid? Was it advertised? Was it, you called up people in the business?
I think Dean can express, we put out a request for proposal, and Dean advertised it as such.
It was advertised and picked up by regional services like Works in Progress that shoots it or provides that service to the contractor. I think were there other vendors that were sent?
And then I sent it out to playground companies that attend our Vermont Parks and Rec conference. So there's like a list of vendors that attended, that are like playground companies. So send it out to them as well.
So,
In an email.
so the package was available to a lot of different people.
Yeah.
I know some local people did make inquiries into it. Dale, for instance, Knowles.
Great. The 6:10 agenda item, Butterfly Garden at Quinlan Covered Bridge. Dean?
Julie, sorry. You could just come up.
Hi. I live about a quarter mile from the Quinlan Bridge. I've just noticed a lot more monarchs and increased wildlife population in the area. I'm a gardener. Say I have a problem. I'm trying to fill my yard with plants and perennials, and this is right on the corner of Lewis Creek and Moncton, and I walk my dog here every day, and so do my neighbors, and some of my former students are on Lewis Creek Road, and I see a lot of children around, and I've talked to my neighbors about donating some plants to install a small garden, and I want to start small. That's a 40 by 45 by 40 triangle. It's kind of big. So I was going to start with just 400 square feet approximately. I think I have to dig up the grass, which is totally fine. I intended on putting down a pollinator mix of seeds and splitting some phlox and bee balm and some other things that attract pollinators, and hopefully make sort of a way station from Moncton Road and Lewis Creek. And I don't know, maybe get some people to be happy, slow down, I don't know, stop and smell the flowers. So.
There's a company in Middlebury that's a startup that's doing seed blankets that will mix according to your needs. So if you don't take the effort to kill the grass, it'll grow back faster than anything else. So this actually has a mat, so once you turn things over, so I would suggest you just look into that.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate that.
It would be cheaper too to do seeds rather than plants for that many square feet.
Oh, for sure, yeah, I already have a mix from American Meadows, specifically for Northeast pollinators, so I bought that when I got excited about gardening 2 months ago. So, yeah, so it's no cost to the town. The worst thing I think that would happen is that it gets a little overgrown and you mow it over. But hopefully it'll be a community effort and not just me out there, and maybe get some kids involved.
That'd be great. Maybe advertise on Front Porch Forum?
That makes me nervous, but I will. I kind of prefer to go over and
Knock on doors?
knock on doors. I brought some Christmas cookies by earlier this year and brought it up to just get permission from my neighbors, and they seemed okay with it. So.
Great. And Road Commissioner, you've kind of looked at the project and have any thoughts?
Yeah, well, the only thoughts that I had was anything planted out next to Moncton Road should be on the low side, just so people coming off from Lewis Creek that have to look up the hill to the left on Moncton Road, just for visibility.
24 inches and lower, or?
Yeah.
I was thinking some nice ground cover like Lamium bed nettle, which does flower, and then that would also provide a cover from the poison parsnip that I'm seeing over there too.
Yeah, there's quite a bit over there. Yes.
Could you flip that back to the picture of where the triangle is? Right there, that triangle that's in the middle is the one you're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
A stupid question then. What would prevent people from driving straight across it? If you plant and do all this pretty work, what's gonna stop the idiots that live in this town?
I'm
Absolutely nothing.
trying to be optimistic and hopeful that people will be respectful. And
Are you gonna put up any kind of little fencing?
no, any infrastructure pieces, I'd have to talk it over with you anyway to get that done. Really, I just hope that people see me and others out there working and give it a second thought before they throw a beer can out of their car or cut the corner too quick, or, you know, usually, not usually, but it seems like when you try to beautify a portion of your neighborhood, people tend to start being a little more respectful, and that's part of the effort too.
Great, thanks.
I think your challenge is going to be getting rid of the grass.
Oh,
I saw your proposal, and that's about the best you can do. Yeah, layer it up, see what happens.
yeah.
Did you talk to Steve Weisman about a donation of compost?
Oh, I would love to, yeah.
You should.
I've killed mulch much of my yard.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
But usually I do that in the fall, so for this season, I just want to get people hopefully interested and by taking a portion out, and then perhaps in the fall, get Ward Preston down to dump some horse manure to compost over the winter.
Great idea.
You know, and then go from there. I've found a lot of success with that so far, and it's inexpensive, and I don't know, it's an effective way to get rid of grass without breaking my back.
Great, well, thank you. And good luck.
Fantastic. And I have too many flux.
Do you
so-
think we need a motion?
I guess it's work partly within the road right away. You might authorize that formally.
Is there a motion?
Oh, well, I love this project. I'll move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Say
Aye.
aye. Opposed? Great, good luck. Thank you.
Great idea.
The 6:15 agenda item, speeding concerns on Ferry Road and other roads. I'd just like to start out with some expectations. I think everyone's coming with varying degrees of knowledge about the historical actions of the town in regard to this issue. I pulled together as much history as possible, going back to 2009, as far as financials go and contracts go. The state police have been willing to come down and be here for this part of the discussion, recognizing that it's an important issue in town. So I want to thank them for coming down on their own time. And at 6:45, we have a biannual contract review with the Vermont State Police, which the town has entered an additional contract for policing services since 2015 with the Vermont State Police. Previous to that, it was with the Shelburne Police Department, and previous to that with the Chittenden County Sheriff's Department. Since 2015, the town and the select board has really been very clear, and so have the Vermont State Police, that they're serving two roles for Charlotte. One is their normal operation as the prime police force for any towns that don't have their own municipal police force, and we fall into that category and are covered with the Chittenden County Barracks in Williston under those services as part of Chittenden County. And the other is a program that kind of brings together two needs. There is a voluntary overtime system for Vermont State Police troopers who want more overtime, and towns that need or desire more police services. And so starting in 2015, we shopped around to a bunch of police departments and found that the lowest bid with the best value was with the Vermont State Police for an additional average of 32 hours per month for a police services that mainly focused on traffic enforcement because of the speeding issue in town. So the Vermont State Police kind of serve those two roles, and while they are here, they are still the Vermont State Police, and any issue that comes up, they're still doing their normal policing duties while they're in town. So are there, I guess the only other thing is for the record, for the minute taker, and for VCAM, if people can state their name before they speak. And if we are having a hard time hearing, maybe come closer to one of the mics, either in the front or right there. Yes.
I did have a question. Maybe one of the troopers can answer it. Route 7 is a state highway, but we're still responsible for, I mean, it's a question, we're still responsible for the traffic, I mean, the state. No.
No.
Okay, because I was reading in here all about Route 7. Is Ferry Road a state road?
Ferry Road is a town road.
Town road, not a state road, okay.
But the Vermont State Police are responsible for all of the traffic safety on the roads all the time.
Okay.
And then we ask them with the contract to come for an additional hours, specifically for traffic enforcement. Yes, Meg?
I'll start. Megan Price, I live on Ferry Road. I'm kind of the one that's been mouthing off recently, so thank you folks who came. I will say that the recent news article discouraged a lot of people. They figure we're back to same old, when one of the state police officers, probably one of the fellows in the back, said, I don't see the board changing anything. I don't see us changing anything. Well, that kind of puts a damper on things after people have been writing me, and I've sent it to Dean, and we've kind of been working on this. But I'll put that aside and hope that trooper is wrong. I started with Ferry Road. I've lived on Ferry Road about 15 years. It's only gotten worse. This is not a springtime problem. There is literally a damper on the weather and traffic right now. But past my house today, someone was passing another truck that was clearly going at least 50 and then passed by another truck. Luckily, no one's walking right now, jogging. They're smart enough to not be in the rain. I'm advocating for 35 on ferry to Greenbush, and the reason is this. When you come off the ferry and you're a tourist, it's 25 in New York State, so you have no clue what it's going to be. And then you hit Magic Land, and it's 50, and you still have no clue because you're from Illinois. So you floor it, but then you see an osprey, gorgeous. You hit the brakes in the middle of everything. You got your camera out, you're looking. People coming at Lake Road at both sides are not stopping because they live here and they figure that's cool, I just keep going. I know when no one's coming, but it's not cool. You've got people on bicycles, everybody trying to go take pictures of the osprey in all seasons. Soon they'll be hatching, then they're trying to fly. It's very scenic. Everybody's stopping, everybody's trying to figure out where they are. The texters are out of control. I have had 6 cars in my yard in 10 days. I will swear on the Bible that's true, and it's in winter, and it's not Junior's fault. I can literally see them put their heads down and start texting as soon as they crest the hill. And they see that it's straight, and it's texting, and it's the navigation systems, and it's all the fun in cars now, in addition to speed. And there is nowhere for the joggers and the bicyclists who sometimes, God bless them, wear earbuds and ride and talk side by side and have no clue that God is about to kill them. And Junior ends up pulling them out of the ditch, so you guys don't even hear about it. You don't hear about all the accidents there, and neither do the state police, because it's usually a single car accident. And that's why I've planted a hedge in front, because I don't want to see it anymore. And I'm hoping the hedge will stop them. So what are the answers? Because Ferry is a road that's popular with strolling, walking your dog, bicycle, and used to be more so when I showed up, but people are afraid now. I'm farther down, I'm 1696, please don't publish that, I don't want friends. But they don't even constitute going down there on the bikeway. You turn first onto Lake Road, which is another issue. I get the people who literally want to see the ferry, and it's still very busy. You've got people who want to walk, bike, text. You've got runners, walkers. You've got more and more cars that are electric. In winter, snow and ice eliminates the shoulder altogether, but people still jog, run, and some still bike, which is really crazy. Then you've got east to west, and you've got the sun in your eyes both ways all the time. Then you've got most of Vermont is geezers now. There you go. And what have we got? Cataracts for Christmas. And so you got people who can't see and joggers wearing black shorts. What a genius plan. And you cannot see them. So you got old people whose reflexes are not so good, trying to get to the senior center or just get out of their homes. And that's why one of our citizens' sons got whacked over on near Wake Robin on Shelburne, and that's 35 miles an hour in the evening. And I believe more people be here, but they can't see right now. Honestly, I have a friend who won't go out past 2 o'clock. Ask your senior friends. They don't go out because they know they can't see. But you're putting people in danger by 50 miles an hour and letting them go on the roads with senior citizens. Then you've got moms trying to talk to the kids in the back seat. So what are the answers? Make Ferry a no passing road, first of all. Make it no passing, because when you got a truck passing a truck, forget speed limits right now, no passing. Secondly, lower the speed limits, erect signs, make it legal, mark the wildlife corridors, give the wildlife a chance. There's all kinds of wildlife on me, I'm on the wildlife corridor. There are bobcats, I think there's been bears, there was a moose once that I never saw, there's absolutely coyotes, deer get hit too frequently. Everything's going through there, it's turtle season, whatever, and they haven't got a prayer because they have to go out into the highway in order to look, and then it's too late. So if you want to cut trees, wax them and give them a chance to see, because animals usually run. They'll run before they look. Then people are trying to dive off. Paint the road shoulder lines. Paint stop on Lake Road, both sides, every year, and make people stop. Put the signs up that say there's a $250 fine. Just like Heinsberg has put at the corner of whatever it is, Marset and whatever. Put those signs there, let people know and have the police stay there. On the corners of Lake Road and Ferry, where people stop to see the ospreys, do some pull-offs, there's plenty of room, if the neighbors will put up with it. Because what's happening is people are pulling off on their bikes anyway, and cars are pulling off. And you get this jam in the summer of people looking and people trying to drive, and it's dangerous. Just have them pull off if the neighbors will put up with it. It's just, all it is gravel and some road fabric. Paint the road shoulders, run the speed test required by law, have a good time. As you know in the law, you don't really need it, but do it. There was one more piece. On What Shelburne's using right now is electronic signs to say what's going on. We need some of those. Junior needs it just to be safe when he's doing road work. He's told me he's had to make a dive for it before he dies, because somebody's texting or whatever they're doing. They don't even see him. It's not enough for a big truck in the road and guys with chainsaws, apparently. Kids only respond to electronics now. So you have to have a big sign that says, "We're working." And that's what they're using in Shelburne right now. And if you had one at the beginning saying, "Bike race today," Wonka, 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 and it just lists the roads because you can program it. And the same at the end, one at the ferry, one wherever, Greenbush, you've got a fighting chance. And for all the bike racers that come, ask them to put a buck in. I've heard Mr. Krasnell say, "We're not here to make money." Well, you know what? I'm here to break even. I mean, you guys don't have any trouble raising my taxes every year. I would like somebody who wants to come bike here, the thousands of bicyclists. Literally, there'll be more than 1,000 guests here bicycling. I think they can put $1 in a bucket to help protect their own lives and help support this town. It is a beautiful town, and I think you are driving people away with this issue. If you want kids to come in this town and families, make it safe. Right now, it is not safe, and parents know it, and they will leave. They will leave. Shelburne has 35, and they've lowered it in places. When you hit Mount Philo Road in Shelburne and you drive, you can just see the switch. They'll go 35, they'll go 35. They hear the shot out line, and whango, they pass you every time. 45 is not fast enough. Bango, and they're gone. I think, in the end, I'm here to hear some of the state police contract, because I think it's time for some more competitive bids. I want real hours. Where are they? When are they? What roads? I think we deserve that. We're taxpayers. I know they're here on the state's dime, they're doing everything. I want to know, when is it speed and what are they doing? I had a friend who's in her 70s pulled over for her faded license plate. I don't consider that enforcement we should pay for. She was on Ferry Road. She pulled over and they said, "Do you know why we stopped you?" She's 75. And she said, no idea. She's going 35, and faded license plate. Really, is that what we're going to pay for? I don't think so. Mount Philo, you're going to hear from those people. So those are my suggestions. I don't think they cost a lot of money. I'm here to lower the speeds before somebody dies. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd just like to speak to a couple factual corrections to what I'm hearing. Your recommendations are great. I think what we need to do after this is have an agenda item at a future meeting relatively soon where we discuss actionable items. I think today is going to be primarily listening.
I'll be back.
On the piece about the public information that is available, if you get with Dean,
I'd like to see
there is monthly data. One thing that all police services are very clear about is that the town of Charlotte cannot tell police agencies how to police. That's very clearly written out in their policies and procedures. And if a town wants to do that, the route to do that is to have their own municipal police force.
I can understand that.
So that is that's a limitation that was true with Shelburne. It's true with the Vermont State Police. It's true with every police agency, that you can't just tell police how to do policing and what's important. If they see an infraction, police can't turn a blind eye to laws that aren't being followed. And the town doesn't have the right to ask them to. So on that piece, I just want to be.
But if it's too much of that, if it's 70% old ladies with faded license plates, you have to ask what you're enforcing.
Right.
And is it worth your investment?
So to that, the town drafted a scope of police services with the Vermont State Police, and it's a priority list. You can read that. That's also available to Dean. That's been something that's been followed since 2014. And those are the expectations and requests. I could go over them quickly, but it is available. So on the public information piece, that information is available. And even after this meeting, you can take my copy if you want. But there are priorities, focus, which roads to focus on, what our concerns are, times of day, seasons of concern, and so that has been laid out.
My bigger question is, why would a state police officer tell the press that he didn't see the select board changing anything in terms of speed limits? what would lead a police officer to say that to them? Who would he have talked to that he would have come up with a comment like that?
Sergeant Daly is,
I want to say it because this little guide up here, if you go through the whole thing, Ferry Road is a very straight road. You have to take into considerations everything that are there, pedestrians, speed limits. You have to do the study, and I did not feel that lowering it to 35, in my estimation, after reading this report, it was going to be able to fulfill the requirements to change the speed limit. I didn't think it was going to fulfill. So I gave my opinion to Shay on why I didn't think that was going to happen. Ferry Road.
so I want this to be an input to the select board. If you have more questions, please ask me, and then.
My one other comment would be that the state law referred to, which I printed out, now says you do not, in fact, have to do that. The legislature updated the law in 2018. You don't have to have the speed study. It's kind of recommended, but you can go ahead and set any speed limit you want on a town road. And I also verified that, not only in law, Louise can read it, but also with one of the planners for the state who's working with Ferrisburg, putting in traffic lights and all those things I don't want to see. But she's been instrumental in that, and she said what the town sets for a speed limit is up to a town, as long as it's over 25 miles an hour and not over 50. Thank you.
Yeah, also, one of the issues about other police services, the historical issues with the previous service was the town had $25,000 a year budgeted and was getting 30% of those hours met. And so in 2015, I was pretty fresh on the board. We decided to go out to bid and to find a police service that would be able to fulfill the expectation of hours that this town was looking for. And the state police has done a much better job at doing that, both on the revenue generation side, which is not the goal, safety is the goal, and on reaching the contract hours that the town is expecting. Margaret?
I'm Margaret Russell from Trails, and I also live on Lake Road. And I'm glad we're having this conversation because it seems like we do have a common goal. Like everybody wants our roads to be safer for biking and for running and for walking. So I'm glad we're having this discussion. I think it needs to be a consistent policy across all Charlotte, that we can't just focus on Ferry Road or Lake Road. We can't have a policy of reducing the speed limit because somebody's the most vocal. I think it needed because there's people out on Spear Street who think it's way too fast. So it has to be a consistent policy. And I'm also here as a trails person. We have a pedestrian trail on Ferry Road. We don't have the money to complete that and make it, really a usable running trail. I would much rather see police dollars actually being spent to make the trails usable, something that we have, and that improvement in the pedestrian infrastructure, than more money going to be spent on policing, which doesn't seem like it has very many long-term effects.
Margaret, it's Louise, and I'm sorry, this is kind of obscure. That's what I drive Ferry Road at least once a day. The easement for a trail is on the north side.
Yeah.
Okay, and so, it's there, the easement is there.
It's mowed.
It's mowed, okay.
It's not hardly raked and gravelled, and it doesn't.
No, right, I know that.
But if we, right now, the trails budget is $5,000 a year for improvement. If we had $30,000 a year, we could really actually start completing. The conversation on Front Porch Forum is like people want a safe place to hike and bike. We're not prioritizing it.
I hear what you're saying, but so the easement exists on the north side, okay, and that would be wide enough to accommodate foot traffic and bicycles.
Yeah, it's mown right now, and
Okay.
hardly anybody uses it.
It's
And
not
actually
signed, but it's not signed,
It
right?
connects right to the train station, which connects to the link trail I mean,
Okay, it only
we're-
goes to the train station? Okay.
Mark, also,
Sorry.
there is a mechanism, a public mechanism, for reporting safety issues. So the data that comes in, we had the town planner, do you have those maps available?
I didn't put it on the website.
So we went through 5 years, Darrell went through 5 years of Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission data of accidents and broke it out based on the type of accident, whether there was personal injury, multiple car. Remember the other 2 categories?
Non-property accidents or injuries.
Maybe throughout the discussion, is it possible to
Sure.
get those up online? But it is clear where the accidents are happening. The state police do, and they could speak to that more possibly, but they do look at where there are dangerous areas in town and prioritize that as part of what they do. And the scope of work is not based on a complaint system. It's data-driven of where the biggest differential is in speed limit to speed traffic and trying to reduce that. Yeah, actually, behind and, yep, yes.
Thank you. My name is Rachel, and I thank you for the time for public comment for this chunk of time. Just a couple of things, though. Just to speak to that trail, I moved to Charlotte 2 years ago. I moved to this side of Charlotte. I was living on the other side of Charlotte, which had other pedestrian issues, perhaps. Yeah, so this side of Charlotte, where I live on Limerick Acres with my 2 kids and husband. And soon after moving here, found out that it was really not possible to walk, bike, use Ferry Road really in any meaningful way. I do myself just to run because I'm pretty careful and I don't use earbuds, but that strip of land on the easement, is that Noel's Farm?
Mm-hmm.
Where that's not navigable. You would break your ankle if you tried to use it as is. It also just goes from the train station to like the end of that field. I'm really happy that that's there. Like clearly, it's we're moving in the right direction. But I think as a new family, I'm coming from the perspective of like, I would like this town to continue to make good on things like the climate resolution, commitments to a walkable center city, and not to say like the other east side of Charlotte should also not have considerations in terms of walkability or bikeability, but this center, I assume we would all maybe agree it's the center where there's the town, this office, the library, a couple shops, trying to sort of get a little bit more business, across the street, across 7, which obviously is not walkable at all from Charlotte. There's just no light, there's no pedestrian crossing there. But just as a member of a young family, I would love for my kids to be able to walk to the library, or, for us to ride our bikes to the beach instead of having to take our car. It's like 3 miles and we have to take our car because it's just not safe to bike. And again, with the forward thinking that this town represents, I'm happy to be a member of the community that has been forward thinking in terms of environment and progressive politics and things like that. That's my own stuff. But I would like, I think it's like an opportunity for discussion in the community if we want to be a walkable community, or if we want to sort of go with the status quo where we're kind of like a drive-through point from the ferry to like Teddy Bear, the Vermont Teddy Bear Art of Burlington. So I also come to this, to my comments, not with the hope of like enforcement and a lot of police presence on the road. I just think that personally, if we had some speed limit signs, if it were brought down to 35, I think people would respect that. And I don't know that I personally don't know that it would require a lot more police hours and enforcement, but that's not my job to know that. I feel like if we showed the people coming through, we respect the space, we want you to go slow because people are using the road. I think that would be respected. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Yes, in front.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Heaslip. I actually live on Mount Philo Road. I live near where Lime Kiln crosses Mount Philo. I'm the first house south on the west side of the road. So I'm like way out in the open there. I have lived in this town about 25 years. When I moved in, I had 2 young kids, and there was no speed limit sign on Mount Philo Road. And if you sit or have your windows open, you can hear the traffic like you're on the side of the highway. And unless you live on one of these roads, you do not understand how loud it is, how dangerous it is. And so I went through this whole process. I talked to the town, and eventually they put up speed limit signs, so it's 45. It did make a difference. It's still fast because how many people drive 45 down Mount Philo? Most people probably drive at least 60. I'm not kidding. And then when I walk from my house to Lime Kiln to take my dogs for a walk, it's not safe there. People don't even slow down while you're on the road. So I'm so surprised that we have to continuously have these conversations about speed in this town. People know that people drive too fast. And I think anyone is welcome to sit on my front porch on rush hour to feel what it's like, or to walk the road near me. My son, when he was a senior in high school, was riding his bicycle on Mount Philo Road and was hit by a truck going 50 miles an hour. That was the scariest thing I have ever been through in my life. And, that didn't have to happen for many different reasons. Thank God his guardian angel was working overtime that day. He didn't have broken bones. We did have to go to the emergency room, but it happens, and I've lived there for so long. I understand what people go through, and I understand it's not safe. And you would hope to live in a town where it's safe.
Yes?
I'm Marion Harris. I live on Lake Road, the south side of Ferry Road, 6 driveways down from the corner of Lake and Ferry. I drive that road twice a day, 3 times a day sometimes more. Number one, I beg to differ with Megan. Most people stop at that stop sign. I have never seen anybody not stop in all my times I've gone through there. I would advocate for a 4-way stop there before I did anything else. I brought that up a number of years ago, and Junior didn't agree with me, which is okay. My daughter got hit there while she was waiting to turn because a drunk was behind her, but that's okay too. I would not support reducing the mileage on that road, Ferry Road, to 35. I think it's ridiculous. I would support dropping it to 45. I don't think people will abide by it. I also want to point out that when I drive into Shelburne, I do not see a lot of people dropping to 35 or 40. I see them going through the town at a higher rate of speed. When you drive into the town of Charlotte, the speed limit is 25. How many of your neighbors drive 25 going through the center of Charlotte, this part of the village? I would bet none of them. I go 25, and I can see from the looks on the faces behind me in my rearview mirror, they are not pleased with me. Well, tough nookies. But when I come down over the hill, I go 40, and then it switches to 50. And yes, I do probably go over 50 on occasion. And when I come to my turn onto Lake Road, I slow down to almost a stop because I feel that I need to make sure there is nothing coming off Lake Road because the trees are there, and sometimes you'll get blindsided with a car coming out of Lake Road that you didn't see. He didn't know you were coming down Ferry Road. So my other issue with that corner and why I would go for a 4-way stop is most of the people that live down on Lake Road and take Lake Road going south cut the corner. And they do not slow down. I have almost gotten creamed there multiple times. And I, of course, toot the horn and, do a few other things. But anyhow, I am a very strong advocate for people that want to walk on the roads and want to bike and jog with their dogs. I try to pull over, in particular if I have my dog with her, because he'll scare the daylights out of whoever's jogging or walking their dogs. I think reducing the speed limit isn't going to change anything. Like this trooper says, I don't think people will abide by it. They will continue to do what they've always done when they're driving home. And most of the speeders that you will see on these roads live right here in this town. They are not people racing to the ferry. I find that a lot of those people are paying attention to the speed limit. And when you get off the ferry coming to Route 7, I want to point out that it's a line of traffic. And golly gee, Whitakers, you ain't going to go anywhere. You're going to follow the line of traffic, and most of those people are going slow. That concludes my point. I would really like to see the speed limit stay right where it is. And I'd like people to learn how to drive.
Thank you. So I would like an opportunity for everyone to get to speak, and we are running over, so I'd like people's comments to be as concise as possible. No, that's quite all right, and thank you for your comments. Also, I think for the next week's select board agenda, if it makes sense, I think we could pick this up again and work on actionable items the select board can start to work on. And if people want to come back for more comments, we can do that then as well. I just want to have everyone look. Dean put up the last 5 years of data from Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission. On the top left, or on the left side, is total crashes in the 5-year period. On the right is fatal crashes in that same period. There's 2 more maps. 1 more map? Crashes with property damage only. Is there an injury map?
I
thought I remember there being.
Let's see, I think there's some crashes that don't have data, so they're not, they're on the total crash map,
Okay.
but not on the.
Can we go back to the property, to the, so, that's a visual perspective of just looking at where recorded crashes are happening. And yeah, hear from you, and then Bill, you had your hand up.
Hi, I'm Jack Pilla. I live at 687 Ferry Road, which is pretty much right across from Lenrick Acres. I do have issues with the speed limit, especially on the Ferry Road section between Greenbush Road and the railroad tracks. That's still the West District, and in my opinion, it's not a safe road because of all the rolls, and there's a lot of blind spots. So I think 40 miles an hour in that section is way too fast. 35 I think would be a lot more reasonable. And as I'm driving down the hill, making a left turn into my driveway, I'm always afraid of someone coming and hitting me from behind. And especially when they're coming over that knoll, they can see 50 miles an hour just ahead, and they're gunning it. And I just look in my rearview mirror and I'm ready to escape every time. So that's scary. So that particular section I would really think should be lowered. As far as the rest of Ferry Road, you might see me out there running year-round, almost every day. And the road is super narrow, there's no shoulder, and 50 miles an hour you would think with a straight road would be good, but with the people that are on that road, it's very dangerous. And I've had to jump off that road numerous times, and occasionally I bring the dogs, and that is scary. And every once in a while we bike with our granddaughter going to the beach, and that's just, don't even want to do that. And I know that town trail link on the north side there, the way it is right now, it's half the year it's underwater or so saturated it's just a mud pit. And we use it quite often when it does finally dry out in midsummer, but it's so uneven, and you definitely can't get a bike on there, not a normal road type bike, so. That's it.
Great, thanks, Jack. Bill Stuno, and then up front.
Thank you. So I just want to put a plug in to change Spear Street from 35 north of Charlotte-Heinsberg Road to Shelburne. As most of you know, the speed limit is 35 in Shelburne and then goes to 45 when you hit Charlotte. Of course, the interesting thing is that when you hit Charlotte, you have a very dangerous S-curve, and then you have two very dangerous intersections at Limekiln Road and Carpenter. Both those intersections are blind. These roads have become major commuter thoroughfares now. People tailgate, people speed. Yes, people will always go faster than the speed limit. In fact, that's pretty much become the common practice between 5 and 10 miles over the speed limit. So if you reduce it to 35, people will probably do 40 or 45, which is probably the maximum that road can handle. Right now, I see people doing 50, 60. Somebody was rear-ended pulling into my neighborhood at Jean Green because he was being tailgated. People assume that maybe you're going to turn at the stoplight at Charlotte-Heinsberg Road, and they don't realize that you're actually turning into a driveway or our neighborhood intersection. And then the other thing, just anecdotally, the troopers were here 2 weeks ago. We had some speed stops. They were great. We really appreciated them. I did speak to one trooper, and he told me he clocked a few years ago somebody doing 80 on Mount Philo Road. And we have to be really careful about not having it happen, because it happens on Spear Street too. Thank you.
Yes, last comment.
In passing Spear Street, same section of road that was just being talked about. Couple observations. I have heard sirens on the Heinsberg Road near the intersection, and I'm assuming people are being stopped. I haven't heard it in a while, but earlier in the spring and over the winter I did. And I think it's effective because it seems now people are going slow. I know the weather is bad and it's summer season hasn't hit yet, but I think having a police presence occasionally is effective and people are more careful. I'd like to suggest and repeat the idea of fog lines. I think they'd be very helpful, especially given, the aging population. Also, they make the road seem a little narrower and people tend to slow down, or that's what's suggested. The other is there's been a real uptick in cyclists coming down Spear Street. I've noticed a lot more this year, and to put it nicely, some of them are remarkably unaware that they're on a highway and not in Disneyland. Most of them behave quite well, but there is this section that starts just north of Carpenter Road, the dips and the turns there, and it's incredibly blind. Maybe signage that says to be aware of bicyclists, or signage anywhere in town to say be alert for bicyclists or pedestrians, I think may help. Because that one section is extremely dangerous. And it's just an accident waiting to happen. Somebody comes over that hill and clocks a bicyclist. And that's it.
Thank you. I just would like to say, I've been working on this issue for the last 5 years now, and I've definitely seen improvements on the enforcement side, and I think in the community awareness side. I think Front Porch Forum has been helpful to also act as a speed control when people get on, and in a respectful way ask their neighbors, because this really is a community issue. I don't think it's an enforcement issue, and it's not a structural issue alone with the roads. We have done some fog lines. I personally think that's a great idea to look at painting more of them. And at the next meeting next week, I think there's a lot of really doable, actionable items here that really wouldn't take a lot of money, but would push the ball forward on this issue. So I want to thank everyone for coming. Please feel free to stay for the biannual review with the state police. We have the barracks commander, Lieutenant Lucas, and Sergeant Daly, who are here. and for the 6:45 agenda item.
Can everyone make sure they sign the sign-in sheet so I have everybody's first and last name, especially the people that spoke? Thank you.
Yeah, you want to come up?
You didn't get that. I guess you didn't get that. It's very interesting.
No, I hadn't seen it before.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Hi, welcome. Sorry about the delay, and thank you for being here for the discussion. Hi.
2 seconds, please.
Sure. Since last year, we have a new board member, Louise McCarron.
Hello. Thank you for what you do for the community. It's appreciated.
Thank you for having us. And, first of all, I'd like to introduce myself to everybody. My name is Lieutenant Bob Lucas. I'm with the station. I'm the station commander over at the Wilson Barracks. We actually cover Chittenden County as well as Lamoille County. I'm proud to report that as of this point, we are almost full staffed. We have one trooper in the academy right now, and that will make us full staff. That is a step that we haven't had for a long time now. I guess just in reference to Ferry Road, obviously I've heard a lot, actually really all the discussions tonight. I really appreciate everybody taking the time to go ahead and voice their concerns. Again, obviously we're not necessarily looking for the squeaky wheel gets the oil, but on the same token, there is a mechanism in place for concerned citizens to go ahead and report these issues that they're seeing. Obviously, Front Porch Forum, obviously we are monitoring that, so we obviously get a lot of good information from that, and obviously it's almost real time, so we appreciate that. Obviously, Sergeant Daly lives in town here, and I'm sure would go ahead and give everybody his home phone number, or just stop by the house. To go ahead and address some of these issues. Obviously, you folks also have a very interactive town. Obviously, with the staff here, they're also very responsive as far as getting us the information that if there are hotspots, so to speak. Which leads me to the Ferry Road issue, and obviously I don't want to necessarily take up too much time on that, but we did actually go ahead and deploy the speed cart during the last flare-up. And I get that there is some controversy with the speed cart. Obviously, people behave better when they know that they're being watched. But we left it there for an extended period of time, about 2 weeks, which somewhat gives us a fairly decent idea as far as what speed goes. If we left it there for a day or several days, like 1 or 2 days, we would expect to see a dramatic drop. Given the length of the time, roughly 2 weeks, that data becomes a little bit more real. And again, it's not 100%, and I'm not going to go ahead and dispute any of the arguments that the people living on the road, because obviously their perception is reality, and obviously that reality is in their front yard. So I'm not even going to go ahead and try and argue with that. But the information that we did gather from the speed carts was, for me, actually was very surprising. You look at the blue chart on the very front. And at the very top, it gives the duration of the speed cart deployment. The interval is 6 hours, so every block along the bottom is 6 hours. And then you'll notice that the posted speed limit in the area is obviously 50 miles an hour. The average speed for the 2-week window was approximately 33 miles an hour. So certainly below the 50 mile an hour zone. The highest speed is listed at 95, and based off of, and obviously I'm not going to go ahead and argue that somebody wasn't doing 95, but the more rational explanation for that was that 2 vehicles passed in front of the cone of the speed cart, and it gave it a false reading. We generally see this from time to time, and really on every deployment we'll see one speed that is just completely off the charts. Again, I'm not going to say that it wasn't Sergeant Daly trying to get it home for dinner or what, but nonetheless, obviously that is our highest. The 50% mark was roughly 38 miles an hour. And the 85th percentile, and again, obviously there seems to have been some changes as far as designing roads and posting roads, but even that speed was 46 miles an hour. Total number of vehicles was 5,656 vehicles, and number above the posted speed limit was approximately 254. So it does give some real-time data, and again, I'm not going to go ahead and argue with the folks that obviously are experiencing higher moving vehicles, but that's at least the data that we retrieved at that point. The second page really just speaks to. I'm sorry about that.
No,
Yep.
no, just want to make sure I understand it.
Absolutely.
The left axis is number of cars.
Number of cars.
Got it.
Correct. Yep. And the bottom axis is obviously the speeds that they calculated. Okay. The second page really just depicts total number of vehicles as well as the times that they passed. This again is for the entire 2 weeks that the vehicle or that the speed cart was there. The yellow along the bottom is the indicators of the speeding vehicles. So proportionally, and again, it's proportionate, but proportionally compared to the number of vehicles that are traveling through there, it's not. Obviously, it's not a huge issue. Again, respectively. Finally, the final page is really just a summary. You'll notice that the blue dots, again, these are in 4-hour increments, so every line, every vertical line in the background, the black lines are a 4-hour increment. And again, you can see along the bottom, there's a red section. We expect that. Obviously, those are the speeders, the 61 plus. Vehicles, and again, that looks like to be in roughly less than two-day period where obviously behavior was changed. Again, like I said before, people obviously start behaving when they notice that they're being watched. But again, the cart was there for approximately 2 weeks, so we would expect that the numbers here are a little bit more accurate than not.
Can I comment very briefly?
Absolutely.
Excuse me, the speed cart was placed in the wrong spot, which I mentioned to Dean, and he said he would have Junior move it, and the reason was, this is a different speed cart?
Yes, they're talking about the one that they put.
Oh, right. The one right now, excuse me, because I was out congratulating people for coming. The speed cart now that's on Ferry Road, I asked Dean, he was gonna make powers that be, I'm asking the board, please move it down farther, between myself at 1696 Ferry Road and Junior Lewis's. That's where they hit 80. And it's where the wildlife crossing is. So between 1696 and Junior Lewis's, what's your number, boss?
1863.
There you go. That's the magic 80-mile-an-hour zone on Ferry Road. Please move the current speed cart. Thank you very much. And wait for a sunny day.
Okay. So again, we place the speed carts in various spots. We try and go ahead and put them in the at least one time during the yearly cycle in the same spot so we could have comparative data compared to last year. So that was, I'm assuming that was the reason that our cart was placed where it was this year. If there are other suggestions, again, we'd be more than happy to go ahead and address that. Any other questions on the speed cart data at this point?
No, it's really clear.
And again, I can come back to this.
Can you issue tickets with this?
I'm sorry?
Can you issue tickets with this?
The speed cart is certified, so we could go ahead and take enforcement action. However, Vermont law doesn't allow us to go ahead and do photo, so to speak, photo issuing of tickets.
Change that law?
Yeah, we can take it up with Mikey Ontotska. It is a state issue.
We can ticket ourselves for speed.
Absolutely.
That's what we can get.
You and I would probably be the first ones to get a ticket.
Someone else is angry for your services.
Absolutely. All right. The second packet that I do have, it's actually the first page. It's listed Town of Charlotte calls for service. Just want to go ahead and quickly go over that. This is a comparison between 2017 and 2018 data versus 2018 versus 2019 data. This lists all the cases that were punched or obviously attributed to the Town of Charlotte. This doesn't break it down by by the contract. These are all the stats, whether we are on contract time or whether we are obviously on our dime. You can see that the calls for service did go down from 371 to 336. And in just going through the numbers, obviously there's nothing overwhelming that stands out. It just seems like calls for service in general were kind of just nickel and dimed to a lower number. One of them that's on there, let's see. So I'll come back to it. So we have what's called directed patrols, which are patrols that are actually where we ask our troopers to spend a certain period of time, a measurable amount of time in a specific area. Again, those are designed to go ahead and troubleshoot some areas, to hit areas that we feel need special attention. One of your areas that we've spent some time in is on Mount Philo Road near the state park. Obviously, we're somewhat proud of the stats that we've been able to go ahead and reduce. In Chittenden County alone, we've been able to reduce from 2016 to 2019 car break-ins by 71%, which is fairly dramatic. 64% for forced entry into burglaries. Again, this is Chittenden County wide. So those are some numbers, obviously, as far as break-ins go. Be more than happy to go ahead and explain some of the descriptions there, but I think they're fairly self-explanatory for you folks. You guys can go ahead and look over those. If anybody does have any questions, feel free to go ahead and reach out to me at the barracks, and I'd be more than happy to talk to them about that. Okay.
But apparently ski equipment is all the rage, right?
Well, yeah, so that was somewhat of an interesting thing.
Yeah.
We've noticed that obviously with the ski areas in our area, that did go up, partially because it's easy, it's
Sure.
quick money, and there's not a lot of security mechanisms put in place. Since noticing this data, we have scheduled meetings with the ski patrol or with the ski areas in our area, just to go ahead and take a little bit more of a proactive response to that as well. Page 3, you'll notice at the very top, it's warnings as well as written tickets. That again is for the year, and that compiles all of your tickets and warnings for the year. Ironically, and obviously in looking at the scope of the police services request, it does line up with the roads that we're seeing the most speed on. Mount Philo Road, Greenbush Road, Route 7, Ferry Road, Heinsberg Road, and I did have another category of others just to go ahead and lump in. There was several that were strays in there. Along the bottom, or in the middle section, you can see Mount Philo Road had approximately 17 tickets written, Greenbush had 15, Route 7 had 186 tickets, Ferry Road had 8, Heinsberg Road had 33, and there was one other ticket issued. It should be noted that in the contract time, when the troopers are working the contract time, we explain to them that obviously the contract is for the town of Charlotte. So we want them to go ahead and spend as much time on the town roads compared to the state roads. Obviously, there are some times that we need to go ahead and commute from one point to the other, and that a ticket may arise. But for the most part, most of your tickets that are being generated are on town roads. Obviously, it only makes sense for us to go ahead and be patrolling the roads that you folks want patrolled, and obviously leave the state roads to obviously to other times.
I apologize, I'm still confused.
Okay.
Route 7 is a state highway.
It is.
But we contract with you folks to enforce the speed limit. But it's our job to enforce the speed limit on Route 7, not the state's job. I'm just confused on that.
No, so because you folks have a contract with us,
Yes.
and obviously you say that you want us to go ahead and patrol your town.
Yes.
Right? We understand that Route 7 is a problem area. We want to go ahead and dedicate our resources to elsewhere. So when a trooper's working contract time for the town,
Yes.
Specifically for the town of Charlotte, we ask that they not patrol on Route 7.
Because that's something that you would do anyway, because it's a state highway?
It is, but again, we know that there's speeding issues there, and obviously we want to go ahead and be proactive in the limited amount of time that we have on secondary roads. More, obviously if, Ferry Road is obviously a hot spot, Greenbush, Heinsberg Road, Mount Philo Road.
Yeah, sure.
Those are areas that obviously we want to go ahead and focus our attention on. And that's why we focus the contract time on those specific roads, and not necessarily on state roads.
And if I could just add,
Absolutely.
because we don't have a municipal police department, when the Vermont State Police are patrolling the Williston Barracks is patrolling Chittenden County and Lamoille County. They divide their resources as far as patrol hours that way. And so Charlotte receives patrol hours as a percentage of those two counties, not on contract time.
Correct. Good example is for tonight, we have 4 troopers working in Chittenden County as well as Lamoille County. So 2 are in Chittenden County, and obviously we'll respond to calls for service in Chittenden County. 2 are scheduled or are slated out in Lamoille County, and they work out of the Lamoille County outpost out there. So, okay. I don't have actual speeds as requested by one of the folks that spoke before. I do have a breakdown, obviously, of the speeds of the different tickets that were issued during this period. I'm not sure. I mean, it would definitely be some work to go ahead and get us actual speeds, total number of speeds for each ticket in the town. What I could do is I could certainly look at least go ahead and breaking those out for the contract time. I think we could go ahead and modify the form that we have, which would just be a couple other boxes for us to go ahead and fill in.
As far as the monthly Excel report that we
exactly.
get? Okay.
So we could actually show, we could break down what speeds are actually being seen on those tickets. Again, don't necessarily quote me on it. Obviously, I won't be able to go ahead and get it within the next, but it would definitely be something that we could work towards.
Okay,
if that's something that you folks as well as the town people feel a need for.
Okay.
Okay. Directed patrols, again, I spoke to that at a little bit earlier. Conducted 15 on Mount Philo, Greenbush Road, 11, 20 on Route 7, 6 on Ferry Road, 6 on Heinsberg Road, and there were 3 others done for a total of 61. And looking at comparing those numbers to the rest of the county, that was actually just a little under double the amount of directed patrols that we did elsewhere throughout Chittenden County. So we are obviously, we're hearing you loud and clear. We are hearing that obviously there are problems down here, and we are trying to deploy as many resources down here as we can. The final page, labeled Town of Charlotte Local Town Contract Recap. Go ahead and let Sergeant Daly speak to that.
Yeah, it just kind of breaks it down by month, how many hours we did, how many tickets, warnings, different cases. Obviously, with the contract, if an accident comes in while a trooper's doing Charlotte time, they will respond to the crash or a neighbor dispute or anything of that nature. It's pretty self-explanatory. Sometimes, we had talked about this prior, that, some months like February and January tend to be a little more snow on the ground, there's a little more ice, and sometimes those hours get bumped back to, if we can use a few more in June or spring when the uptick in speeding starts, we go ahead and either reallocate those to that time, or if there's a certain problem and we can target that area, then we'll go ahead and maybe use a few extra hours there. So it's not a very strict, you have to do them this time at this time. It's pretty fluid, and we try to be responsive with those hours.
I was surprised on the crash maps, how many was east of the Four Corners where my store is.
Absolutely.
Boy, there was an awful lot.
Absolutely.
I would think down there by Fat Cow Farm where the pigs are.
So
when
again,
the school
these,
starts again,
exactly.
maybe
Yep.
get those kids used to seeing that there could be police sitting there.
Absolutely. So again, this data is also, like Matt spoke to before, this data actually does drive our responses. Not only
sure
obviously
does.
through those
Yeah,
folks
see,
up there,
look at that.
but also through several other data banks that we have to be able to go ahead and mine and get information from. So.
Well, I appreciate what you're doing because I believe the presence, people seeing you will.
Absolutely.
And also, I'd just like to add testimonially, as someone who's been overseeing the contract awards, and I've just seen an incredible responsiveness of the Vermont State Police to the town's needs, and that's improved over time. The data collection and reporting has improved significantly over the 5 years. I'm glad to hear that we can even get a little sharper image.
Absolutely.
And I have available for people to look at just the historical kind of accounting of the expenses and the revenues, and what was budgeted and what was delivered. And the last 5 years, the Vermont State Police has been doing a great job at getting us close to those requested hours, especially compared to the previous years, and at the lowest cost to the town, which is kind of getting value at both ends for the town. So I appreciate the service.
Can I just ask, where do the fines go?
So as far as I understand, the money trickles in different directions, some to the state court system to administer the process, and then a remainder is returned to the point of origin where the ticket, the municipality where the ticket was issued.
So it offsets the contract, in other words?
Yeah, so, expenses are separate from revenues in the budgeting cycle in the town report, but there's been a pretty steady $30,000 expense budgeted, and over the years, I can kind of run from 2009, $2,400 was collected in revenue. It peaked with that service at $10,000 in 2013. We switched to the Vermont State Police in 2015, had a peak revenue of $20,653 in 2017. And so.
So the real cost of the town is really the net of that.
Correct.
So $30,000 sounds like a lot, but a lot of it's coming back to the town.
You're also looking at response rates. Obviously, if the trooper's in town here, obviously the response rate is much lower. Time to get here is much lower. Obviously, with the state police, we're a one-stop shop, so to speak. Obviously, we're primarily working contract time to go ahead and do speed enforcement. But there, like we talked about a little bit, if there is a call for service that comes in, we'll actually go ahead, that trooper will actually go ahead and take it, as well as being supplemented by staff from the shift as well. If you were to go with, say, the sheriff's department or perhaps another town, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll say, we'll come down and do enforcement. It's just going to go ahead and be speed enforcement. So they may be down here, but if a crash or motor vehicle crash comes in, they'll still call the state police, and the state police will naturally go ahead and respond. They'll obviously give us a hand with it, but obviously their primary focus is really just for speed enforcement. So.
And do you reveal your forgiveness margin for speeding? If the speed limit is 25 in the village, and somebody comes through at 40, is that a ticket, or is that a warning, or is it depending on how many times they've been stopped, or?
Yeah, unfortunately, we get asked this question all the time. A lot of factors go into whether or not you're going to go ahead and get a ticket or a warning. Obviously, weather conditions, road design, speed, the actual speed itself. So all those things plus probably 15 to 30 other things go into play there. What I tell my troopers is obviously reasonableness. Obviously if we were to go ahead and write everybody that was doing 5 miles over the speed limit, obviously number one, we'd got a ticket books. Number two, I'd be getting a big call from this guy saying, hey, knock it off. Just because obviously we would be, we'd be upsetting the apple cart, so to speak. So really, you need to go ahead and demonstrate, our troopers need to demonstrate reasonableness. The other thing is we also have to do, we have to write what's enforceable. You know, if my troopers write a speeding ticket for 5 miles over the speed limit, potentially he needs to go before the judge and obviously defend that ticket. One of the first questions the judge will probably ask is, trooper, how many tickets have you written for 5 miles over the speed limit? You know, and again, obviously, if there's a proven track record where he has written 5 miles over the limit, then obviously we can go ahead and defend that action. If it's not, you know, if he normally writes, say, for 15 miles over the limit, you know, that comes into play, and obviously the judge needs to figure out if that was reasonable or not. So there's no magic number. Obviously, there's no number at the academy that they say thou shalt write a ticket at certain numbers. But on the same token, you know, there's what I explained to my troopers is there's punitive action and there's educational, and obviously we also need to weigh the pros and cons to that. You know, is the grandmother who's driving around, I think somebody said, with a faded license plate, is it a violation? Yeah, it's a violation. Is it really worth writing her a ticket for that? Probably not. Obviously, there's information that we'd go ahead and give her, educate her, and obviously get it fixed.
I think I'm the grandmother that has the peeling license plate.
Does it have 5
You're not the
digits
only
still?
one.
No, it's just, it's peeling off.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a whole batch of, there's a certain lot number that obviously that the state
No,
has had to go ahead and replace.
We're replacing it, but yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean,
Maybe
do I need my grandkids in the car to you know,
verify that.
verify that?
Maybe
Take your word on it.
2 more quick questions, and then we're out of time. Rick, and then Tom.
The concept for me is, we were talking about risk management and how much we're willing to invest and what's our return. It sounds like these guys are great investment for risk management. It comes up in a bigger picture of risk management and other things in terms of the trails. Do you assign that as an alternative to risk management? And because it comes up in this other context of me getting upset about things like allocating resources for the risk management of ash trees. The chance of being 1 in 200 million being hit by a falling tree, whereas drowning by a child 1 to 4 is the #1 cause of death. Yet we have no life rings at the town beach. And being hurt in an automobile accident is one of the top risks of all. So it's a great financial investment in terms of risk. And so I don't believe the town has any risk management plan. The Honorable Bunny over here tells me that Shelburne almost died trying to make a risk management plan. So don't, whatever. UVM. So in the concept of having it in the context of things, a risk of being hurt by a car is 1 in 1,000 or so, whereas the risk of being hit by an ash tree is 1 in 200 million or 20 million. And yet you've allocated close to $50,000 of our resources to that risk. But where does it stand compared to some other risks in town? Like drowning at the beach or getting hit by a car. There's no context for that allocation, so that's my 2 cents worth on that.
Thank you.
And I'll give you the copy of the.
I kept it.
Thank you. Tom, and we'll take that, please. Thank you,
My
Rick.
question is a little bit related, and that is that if the town were interested in more coverage, the question is, do you guys have the bandwidth to be able to allocate more time to Charlotte? If it were a high level of interest. And I'm not saying it is, but if we...
So every cycle, every time we go to renew a contract, that question always comes up. Are we doing, are we asking, or are we putting too many hours on the books, or are we putting not enough? And I guess we just, at the end of the year, or towards the end of the year, obviously we look at the numbers of hours that we're actually using, and if it's an average of greater than or equal to the number of hours that we allot per month, then obviously we'll go ahead and bump those numbers up. If we don't, and obviously we're falling way short, then obviously we have a discussion about, do we need to go ahead and cut those hours back? Is there something else that we can do? We encountered that a couple years ago, and at that time the contract was just for Williston State Police troopers to go ahead and work. New Haven Barracks was not included. Middlesex was not included. St. Albans Barracks was not included. And what we've done is we've actually opened up all our contracts to the regional troopers to come in. It doesn't cost the town of Charlotte any more to have a trooper come up from Middlesex than it does from Williston. but we allow those hours to be worked, or we offer those hours to be worked by other troopers, not just out of the Wilson Barracks, so that we can go ahead and fulfill those hours. To answer your question, I think honestly, in looking at the numbers of the hours that we're completing, I think we're right on par with what we can offer, what we can complete, and what would be best for the town.
So it's not as simple as just saying, I want to double my contract hours and it being able to be executed upon?
Correct.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there's not a shortage of hours at this point. When we get closer to that number,
Yeah.
then obviously we can go ahead and talk about more hours. But at this point, we're still under where I'd like to have us.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you coming down. It was great to have, you know, this presentation and data.
I guess the only thing that I would ask is that moving forward, obviously we would love to be part of the solution, and obviously not just kind of an outskirts. If there are further discussions that you'd like us to have be part of, obviously we'd be more than willing to go ahead and entertain that, and obviously come to provide our feedback from it. Obviously we're just kind of, we're all on the same team, obviously trying to go ahead and accomplish the same thing. So if we can do anything to help out, please let us know.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if anybody wants any of the staff, then we'll do that the rest of the day.
Public comment. Is there any public comment?
I'd like a copy of the report.
Yes, right here.
Right here.
Please, feel free.
I'm not sure if I heard that enforcing on Route 7 is part of what we're paying for, or not?
They specifically ask troopers on contract hours not to enforce Route 7, although they do transit Route 7, and they can assess someone's speed in oncoming traffic from their vehicle. So it does happen, but it's not part of the directed patrols.
I just also wondered about the hours of when they're patrolling. Was there anything about hours?
Well, yes.
Because obviously, if
it's-
the trooper's in town from 3 a.m. to 5 on his time on Whaley Road, he's probably not going to see a lot of people. But it's, you know, it's the commute that I think is getting most people on Philo, on whatever.
That is in the scope of services that the town has contracted with the state police. So I can leave you with this.
I'll
and-
ask Dean for a copy.
Okay.
Or I'll give you my copy.
Thank you.
But yeah, that is taken into consideration for the state police.
Thank you.
I just want to know if I could ask more specific question at a later time about the actual data itself.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Do I direct my questions to Dean?
Uh,
By email?
Maybe both of us, and I liaise with
Okay.
Lieutenant
I
Lucas.
just don't want
and
to bore people with data stuff, so I just figured I'd ask later.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah. Any other public comments? Then the bid opening for the paving. Is Junior here?
Step down.
Yes, we step down.
Hey. Don't worry, we're late, not you. We're late, not you. We have 4 bids. Probably do need a letter opener.
I'm going to get you one with, you know.
ST Paving Incorporated. Type 3 hot mix asphalt in place at $71.20 per ton. Type 4 hot mix asphalt in place at $74.19 per ton. D&F Excavating and Paving Inc. Type 3 hot mix asphalt in place at $62 per ton. Type 4 hot mix asphalt in place at $62 per ton as well. Whitcomb, Frank W. Whitcomb Construction Corporation. No price for type 3 hot mix asphalt in place. Type 4 hot mix asphalt in place, $72.92 per ton. And SD Ireland Brothers Corporation, type 3 hot mix asphalt in place, $68.07 per ton. Type 4 hot mix asphalt in place, $71.07 per ton. Might wait for Louise to return. So every year, the town has a set budget for resurfacing the roads, and Junior every year has a list of priority road sections. The town traditionally looks at the price per ton and then selects a bidder based on that and the road commissioner's recommendation. And then the road commissioner works with the paving company to determine how many miles of each road to do and what to start and where to start and where to stop until that 235 is expended. Question, Bill?
The difference between type 3 and type 4?
Type 3 is half-inch stone and down. Type 4 is 3/8 and down.
Oh, okay.
Are they used for different applications, or do you have a preference?
Yeah, sometimes like the bigger stone, like the half-inch, we use like on more heavily traveled roads. It's stronger just because it's bigger stone.
So with the bids, it looks like there's a $6 difference between the lowest bidder and the next bidder. And then the gap goes up from there.
So the roads that are being done, what are you recommending?
Which roads? Oh, you mean which?
All the roads that you're recommending and the type you want to put on.
Of what you want to pave this year?
What type you mean?
What type and what roads?
Well, the roads, there was a list. I don't know if you guys have got it, but there was a Mount Philo Road from 1 mile to Ferrisburg Line, Spear Street from Ferrisburg, Mount Philo Road basically over to Green Acres kind of farm where they left off last year, and then they're going to hook on where they left off that year at Guinea Road, and they're going over by your place.
Yeah,
Robert Marbles.
Down to the,
And Wings Point, down by the lake.
and all those are going to be covered with type 3?
Type 3, yes. Wings Point would probably be type 4. Hills Point, I mean.
So traditionally, unless there needs to be some detailed analysis, this contract has been awarded the night of with the recommendation of Junior. You've worked with DNF Excavating and Paving before.
Yes.
Do you think
Highly
they
recommend it.
highly recommend?
Yes.
And they came
As far as
in.
I'm concerned, they're the best. Never had a complaint.
Okay, they came in. I would say significantly less than the next company. And so I don't often, but I make a motion to award the paving contract to DNF Excavating and Paving Incorporated for the work to be completed between May 20th, 2019 and June 30th, 2019. And to get direction as far as the scope of work and which roads to pave from the road commissioner. there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank everyone for their bids, and have a good paving season. Hopefully the rain holds up.
Gets one. Give these to
Yeah,
Dean.
the top one is DNF. CVFRS quarterly report. Thanks for waiting. Welcome.
Thank you, Matt.
Let me start.
Yes, thank you.
So Louise, it's nice to meet you. I'm Tom Cosmo.
Oh, hi.
Nice to meet you. You guys, I assume I've know
Oh,
one
yes.
another quite well. So here we are 3/4 of the way through the fiscal year. So from an expense standpoint, our expenses, if we were exactly on budget, would be at 75%, stands to reason. And we are actually a little bit under budget, 73.81. Part of the reason that we are under budget is that there was a period of time where one of our staff members on the rescue side was out on workers' comp claim. And so consequently, there was no salary being allocated during that time period. So that's primarily why it's just, it's under budget. Dean, if you go back up to the income section, you guys have a physical sheet of paper to this?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the top of the top of this first analysis is the income component. That is the revenue that's coming in. And as you can see, like we said before, we should be at 75% if we were exactly on income projections. We're slightly ahead of that in terms of patient billings. Part of that is that Patrice had the foresight to contract with a new billing service. It's less expensive, more efficient, and frankly doing a better job. We're a little behind on intercept billing. But the reality is, when you see the next report, if you were able to see April's report, we're actually very caught up. We're where we should be for intercept billing. Is everybody familiar with what intercept billing is? I thought maybe yes. I don't know. Do you want to take that?
I'll take that one. Okay. As everyone knows, we have paramedics on staff. There are times when there is another agency, either to the north or the south of us, that is in the need of a paramedic to administer narcotics to a patient that's being transported. And they tone us out to meet them, usually somewhere along Route 7. Our paramedic travels with the patient to the hospital, administers whatever pain medication they need. We bill that agency at the end of every month. It's a flat rate. Our duty crew, the other member, typically comes back to the station and runs with our full-time firefighter, who's also an AEMT. So our ambulance stays in service, even though the paramedic is up at the hospital, and the other agency transports the paramedic back to us, or we rendezvous with them if they're north of here. So it's actually a win-win for us, and it's a revenue generator, as you can see. We can't guarantee what that income is going to be, because you never know when that call is going to go out.
There was one other thing I didn't understand, ambulance agency assessment.
Well, thank you for asking.
Did I ask the right question?
Yes, yes. So a couple of years ago, Montpelier saw that as a revenue source for the state, and they were using that to parlay some additional federal funds to increase the Medicaid reimbursement.
Oh, okay.
We don't do a fair amount of Medicaid billing here in Charlotte, so the winners are those lower income city, more cities in Chittenden County and throughout the state. But we have to pay to the state at the end of every fiscal year, 3.3% of what our patient billing revenue is.
Okay, got it.
So that's one of those unintended consequences of action in Montpelier, that money goes out and we don't necessarily see it come back.
The only other thing that might not sort of jump off the page and be readily understood in that income section is program services income. And that can be a couple of things, but probably the most common would be you've got a hazardous material situation where an insurance company gets to be billed for the services, and that's cash flow that would come from that.
And that definitely relates to the ordinance that you folks put into place last fall.
In the MOA, right? That language change in the MOA enables us to bill for that. Yeah.
And there's any special events where, as you know, people request special events to be held in town, and if there's a need to have a standby ambulance, that revenue that we bill out for the standby ambulance lands up in program services as well.
Case in point, Louise, like the Lake Champlain swim.
Oh, you know, that's on my list.
Yeah. To do?
Oh, yeah.
It's on your
I've done it
bucket list.
before. It's good. You can cheat, you can wear a wetsuit.
Yeah, get buoyancy.
Get buoyancy and stay warm.
And we don't budget that line item because, again, we don't know if there's going to be a hazardous material incident in town during the fiscal year, so it's just revenue that goes directly to the bottom line.
So do you have, I don't know, you have one sheet in front of you, or how many?
They have
multiple
It's
pages.
a profit and loss statement.
Okay, so,
Oh, it's on budget to actual.
Yeah.
So-
More detail.
On the expense side.
right, so then the next part of that is the budget versus actual. That gives you far more detail. Our expenses are broken up into three sections: corporate, fire, and rescue. And, you know, the individual line, excuse me, individual line items for corporate are there, as well as fire and rescue. As you can see, just kind of summarizing, we are slightly ahead of where we would let me restate that. The fractions for corporate show an 89% versus 75%. Part of that is because it includes expenses that are front-loaded, that are paid in the beginning of the year, but are for services and things that are apportioned across the full year. So corporate expenses are at 89. Fire is slightly over as well. It's at 80.76. That's the total 5,200 line. So fire is at 80.76, and there were some things in that, if Dick were here, he could explain in real detail, but where we prepaid for things because we could get them more, more favorable pricing or whatever. And then rescue is under, and that brings us to a total, like we said, a total budget of under where we would, for the year, by about $12,000 or $13,000 under. So that's kind of where we are. And any questions?
I guess I would wonder, just to briefly explain both fire and rescue, payroll, and benefits, the difference between budget and actual?
I'm not following your question.
I'm not either.
Fire.
So why fire is over and rescue is under?
Right.
Well, Tom spoke to the reason why rescue is under because we had a staff member that was out on workman's comp. That's paid through the insurance company, not through our expense budget.
So
that's a
there's 100, or, okay, there's
a direct savings there. In addition, if you remember last spring, after our budget was put together, the CBFRS board made a leadership change and restructured the organization, and that plays into the three different benefits, and the benefits line item as well as the wages. So if you go back to the financial allocation summary, Dean,
First sheet.
the first sheet, that's where they all roll up together. So you're not looking at just fire payroll, just rescue payroll, you're looking at the organization as a whole, which is really what the focus of the board was on when they did the leadership and restructuring change, that we didn't re-budget and reforecast the budget that we had presented to the electorate, but we actually are running the actuals the way the actuals are falling. So if you look at wages and salaries and member incentives, that's at 71%
Right.
versus the 75, and the delta is actually the workers' comp situation. Because monies that were originally budgeted in the rescue are now being consumed in the other two wage and salary line items, in both corporate and in fire. And the benefits and taxes is off because we were down a full-time, well, the board decision was to eliminate a position, which was a benefits position. And I believe in the 2020 budget, it's reflective of what that action was last year.
Right, remember 2020 is level funded as far as the appropriation is concerned.
Does that answer your
Thanks,
question,
yeah.
Dean? Okay.
Any other questions?
So frankly, Louise, the MOA subcommittee that we talked about
Yes.
during your restructuring, I'll be getting back to you because we've identified the members on the fire side. And I'll reach out to both of you. I think the Dropbox folder that I created, you now have access to, that has the copy of the existing MOA.
Yes.
If you didn't see that link, I can resend it. And we'll find a mutually agreeable time where the majority of people can get together.
Nice.
Okay?
Good.
Whatever works.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
So the Town Beach accessibility ramp. Dean, do you want to?
Actually, I'm going to turn it to Bill.
We have been, thank you for putting this on the agenda. We've been thinking for a number of years and have been approached a number of times about increasing the accessibility of the lower beach area, the beach, to persons carrying items such as paddleboards, stand-up paddleboards, kayaks, etc. The ramp that that I've discussed with Junior is going to be a ramp. It's not a vehicular ramp as such. It is only for people and what they are carrying. It could be with very slight modifications wheelchair accessible, but I did meet with Junior down there, and I think it's probably, according to him, and he can speak to this, a job of 4 to 6 hours maybe of existing material, moving existing material to create a ramp. We have approached both the Army Corps of Engineers and the Shoreland Protection, and they've been both those agencies have been spoken with.
And basically, from my understanding, have kind of green lighted, there not being any.
That's correct. The Army Corps of Engineers is
needed?
only concerned with anything below the 98-foot lake level, which this will not be encroaching upon.
How far away is it from the 98-foot level?
Well, I can't tell you that exactly. I can show you on that picture that's up on the screen there now that where the 98-foot level is.
Is that the red line?
Yes. And that's approximately, the green line is approximately to where the ramp will be. But so on a horizontal lake level, it's probably about 20 feet. On a graded level, it's obviously a little bit more.
I'm just wondering why we aren't going out as close to the 98-foot mark to be able to have access when the water's low.
Well, it doesn't, it's not affected by water level. This is simply a ramp down to it, because the beach is pretty level there, very level in fact. So if we get people down with a grade that's pedestrian friendly to the flat level, we don't need to go any further.
One thing, looking at the pictures and kind of the information here, I think we'd really benefit by doing a site visit.
Okay.
And if people are okay with it, I'd like
Do you want me to
to.
bring one of my boats and I can show you how difficult it is to get down there?
Yeah. But I think at the next select board meeting next week, we could even do that.
Yeah, I'd like to know if it could be marked out where it's gonna be.
Certainly, I will be there and can explain it to you. And we cannot mark. I'm not prepared to get into my bathing suit again. I've done it once already.
No, I mean,
But-
I mean the position on the road.
Oh, yes,
Next to the road,
absolutely.
so we know where it's going out from.
I will be there
And
and
to try to
describe
figure
it to you.
And maybe Junior could meet us there.
Yeah.
We could all meet there, look at it. I think there's two general approaches to building a ramp. I've constructed a couple of ramps with J. Hutchins Inc. in the past, and some ramps go in perpendicularly to the lake, and others run parallel to the shoreline. The benefit of running a ramp parallel to the shoreline is a more gradual grade and less of an obtrusive structure into the lake shoreline, which reduces any resistance from weathering, ice flows, debris building up in corners. So if we could kind of look at those two options while we're down there, and look at what the two might entail as far as cost and material.
And my question is really, this is not for wheelchair access, but it would not be inconsistent with wheelchair access if we could take that next step at some point.
Correct.
Okay.
What was suggested by actually the Army Corps of Engineers was there are mats, heavy stall mats, horse mats, that you can lay down for probably 2 of them for less than $100 that would last a season. They don't float.
Sure.
And this is well above any kind of water level that we've seen here in the last, since 2011. So they would not move. And so we could have accessibility for wheelchairs very easily if we wanted.
Good.
And this doesn't need any kind of approval from the zoning department?
I don't believe so, no. I don't.
Well,
It was
I'm just wondering, it almost acts like kind of a shoreline improvement sort of thing.
Everybody else has to get one.
And if a person on Hills Point was gonna put this ramp in, they would most likely come before the zoning board for conditional use review.
Would that be more for like a concrete or a wooden or?
Even a gravel ramp, if they're going to cut into the, if they're gonna build anything within the, near the lake, it's 150, it's either 100 or 150 foot setback, you need conditional use approval.
So let's look at that before next week.
I mean, it may
I
not need it.
I spoke to Aaron about it, and I was not made aware of anything
Right, it may-
to that
it may
effect.
not.
So it was considered a landscaping project in the scope that it was described, and I'm not sure whether that is.
Oh, we can look at it.
Yeah,
look into
I don't know.
Robert?
What type of material are you gonna build it out of? Why do you, if you don't use concrete or something secure, why do you think it'll stay there?
Well, in speaking with Junior, the material, would you like to speak to that, Junior, or shall I continue? Yeah, go ahead, thank you.
We're gonna use big rock and dig them into the existing lake bed, so half the rock is under, so they wouldn't move, and then the stuff that we dug out would be the stuff that we used as what I would call chinking material to fill in the voids, and that's what it would be left on top.
And it may need occasional maintenance.
Well, it's definitely gonna need maintenance as the water gets high and washes up against it, especially probably at the low end of it. But it's pretty straightforward, just dig down, put some big rock in there, and then some smaller rock and and then the fines on top of it.
So we'll try and have a earlier meeting. Can people do 5:30 in general? We haven't really
Fine
set
with
a
me.
time next week or a day yet, but
Possibly.
possibly. Oh, okay, or 6.
We can try 5:30 so far.
That's fine with me.
That would be
Is that-
the site visit?
The site visit, yeah.
And the expense for this?
At 4 to 6 hours, we believe we can do it for $600 to $800.
And that's in a budget?
Yes.
Yeah, and, yeah.
I believe it's within our beach budget, I'm not sure. It is not.
No, not in our.
Okay, then we don't have a budget item on it, no. We'd look for maybe access to a general fund
For that.
for this.
Okay.
Where?
Pardon?
General fund?
Forgive me, I'm not aware of the financial arrangements of the town to the degree that, I do not have a budget item for this, is all I can answer to.
So why wouldn't you wait till you had included it in the budget? If everybody did that, there would be no sense in having a budget. We have a budget process, we're not following it.
Fair enough.
So we'll have a site visit. No money's being spent, and we'll go forward looking at putting in an accessible ramp for boats and people who aren't using the stairs.
Yep.
So thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
The next two items, authorize Thompson's Point leaseholders to drill wells. Are they here?
I think they're
Someone
representatives here.
representing?
Is it Jason Barnett
Yeah.
and John LeBar? So
Welcome.
they're representing,
Good, sorry about the wait.
No problem. And Richard Tino, he wanted to actually, let me give him a call. And
okay.
Jason,
Hey Dick, how are you?
okay,
Good, we're on.
okay. Are you gonna put me on speaker so I listen?
You are, you're front and center.
We hear you, Dick.
Thank you.
Do you want, I guess, just, you want to do Dick's first while we're,
Yeah, do you want to explain?
Yeah, what?
No, proceed.
Jason, do you want to just briefly?
So I'm Jason Barnard and Jarvis, land surveyors, designers. I'm representing Dick tonight. He's looking to have his seasonal dwelling served by an on-site drilled water supply well. That'll be done with a wastewater exemption through the Planning and Zoning Office to be disconnected from the Thompson's Point water. Correct.
Does anyone know, Dean, do you know how many wells are out there?
Don't know exactly how many wells are out there, but it'll be in the state database, and that's easy information to find out.
About 70.
70, Dick?
Okay.
Yeah, about 70.
Are there other questions
I
about
do have
this process?
one question for both of you on this, and that has to do with indemnification to the town should there be any damage, property damage, or it says all expenses. I'm just reading at the front, this is bear all costs and expenses associated with the installation. But my question is, does that include if there is damage to the property, because the property is owned by the town, the building is owned by the individual, but does that include indemnification to the town? Should there be, I mean, you're bringing in a big rig and...
Yeah, it's going to be done when it's dry, when the soil is stable, and it's obviously shallow to ledge, so we don't expect much movement. Really don't expect to have any damage, but I mean, in terms of indemnification, Dick, what's your thoughts? Sort of alleviating the...
Well, it's going to come to the left side of our garage, which is an open area with the lawn, and then we'll go slightly up, either behind the garage or slightly to the left of that, and there should be no structures, no trees, nothing there.
No, I understand what you're saying, and I support the concept of drilling the wells. This was just a question, having read through this agreement, whether it included any damage, reimbursement of expenses included any potential damage to the property, to the real estate.
So other than tire tracks, which would be fixed after the water line was put in, I don't really see any damage that would occur.
Well, I'm asking a question, and with all due respect to both of you, I'm asking, does it include indemnification? And you tell me there's not going to be a problem. It's okay. I mean, does expenses include any damage to the property?
I would assume, yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
It would be our responsibility, that's what.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be the town, if that's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's our lot.
Now, these are served by the town septic? Served by the town wastewater, right? Wastewater.
Yeah.
And that's not. It's a private.
Yeah, Steve Williams did, review both of these. The one for Richard Tonino does not require crossing the force main, so in this case does not require pressure testing of the force main afterwards. The other one does involve pressure testing because it does require the truck to drive over road where the force main is located.
That's one of the things that'll be paid by the
leaseholder.
By the leaseholder.
Camp owner, yep.
Okay.
And the aquifer is sufficient?
Should be. There's over 70 wells that have been.
Okay. And how deep are those wells?
Obviously, drilling is drilling. It's always a crapshoot. Yeah.
How deep are the wells? This is a curiosity question.
I'd have to go through and review them, but I mean, what have you experienced it? 500 to 700 feet out there?
Yeah, that's about right.
No, about 200 to 400.
2 to 4. Okay, so that's even better.
Less, yeah, that's our side.
If we're quoting a well, we usually say 500 or 5 to 7. If it's less, it's better off.
So,
I guess the only other question is the timing. I know they're both trying to do them as quickly as possible, and there's the construction deadline, but you did say to do it when it's dry, so when are you aiming to do it?
I think we're going in 2 weeks. Dick?
Yes, soon. Yeah, within within the end of May.
Yeah. Hoping it's a little drier than it is presently.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Dean, who from the town supervises this, if anyone?
It would really be Steve Williams, the
Okay,
wastewater
great.
system operator.
Perfect.
He's a contracted,
Good.
a contractor that oversees the wastewater system.
Okay. Do you want to do these together or separately?
Yeah.
So make a motion to approve the permission to drill an on-site well on a Thompson's Point lease lot on lot 104 and lot 192, 193.
And authorize.
And authorize the chair to sign.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any more discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Good luck.
Thank you
Hopefully
very
it's
much.
100 feet.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, right. Ours is 750 feet.
Wow.
I get one that's 9.
But at least. if
Have a good
you
night.
run out of water, you can just fill.
The Green Mountain Bicycle Club. Hi.
Hi there.
Welcome.
I'm Kevin Bissett from the Green Mountain Bicycle Club. I'm actually the president, and some say for life. And I'm here to request usage of Greenbush Road for 3 bicycle time trial events. These are put on by the Green Mountain Bicycle Club, and we've been doing this for probably about 40 years now, and I think we've used Greenbush Road for about 3 decades now. And I've been before the board here probably about, 5, 6, 7, 8 years now, requesting permission. So these are not a mass start event. This is one rider goes off every 1 minute, so riders aren't going to be clumped into the road or anything like that, so traffic will be able to pass by. The course will run from just south of the intersection of East Thompson's Point and Greenbush, maybe about 200 meters south. The finish will actually be close. The finish will not be at the same area as the start location. I moved it farther north to help reduce congestion of cars passing by and so on. And then the course proceeds down to Route 7, then the riders will turn around and come back. I will have 3 bright yellow signs placed to warn motorists, one at the intersection of Greenbush and Thompson's Point, then one at, I don't know the name of the road.
Town Line Road?
It comes in from Route 7. There's a...
East Thompson's Point?
No, actually farther south of that. Is it Stage? Okay.
Oh, at the mobile?
Yeah, yeah, actually farther west of that, near the intersection of that road and Greenbush. And then at the intersection of Route 7 and Greenbush. I also will have cones at the start area to separate traffic and riders will be in the dirt, waiting. I won't have them in the road waiting to start. And as far as parking goes, I exchanged some emails with Robin Reed about parking, and she didn't see any problem with it. Is that Robert? Mac?
Yes.
I have your cell phone number, Robert.
You do?
Yes. She gave me yours. Oh, I am good. And I have been meaning to call you. And anyway, if that works out, we have parking set. And Dean has, I believe you've contacted Rescue or to get a signature or something like that.
They signed off, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And I will personally make sure there's no garbage, to make sure that there's no garbage left anywhere. And I think that's about it. I really stress to our riders to share the road. That's really important, and we all know what, somebody got killed on, unfortunately someone died on Greenbush several years ago, and so anyway, I really stress safety and so on. So
What time of the day? Does it say here?
I'm sorry, I didn't give the dates. Okay.
No, I have the dates.
Yeah. Okay. So each event will start at 6:30.
Okay.
Yeah, on Thursday.
And what do you? Your estimate is a couple hours or?
No, probably typically about 30 riders show up.
Oh, there it is.
And so it.
8:30. Got it.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah. So I guess a couple hours, 6:30, 8:30. Yep.
32 years? Wow.
Yep.
That's a tradition.
Yes. It's been happening for a while. I've been running these for 25 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are there other questions from the board?
Well, when did you have to start getting permission to do this? If you've been doing it 32 years?
There was an issue with some riders. Yeah, there was a resident nearby, and there was something that happened. And anyway, I forgot if I spoke with you, Dean. This is a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, actually, when the Recreation Commission started this process of formalizing this kind of thing, that's when we asked them, and then there were, I think that parking was an issue.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we used to remember now a lot of things were happening around then, so sure, I remember.
Yep.
So the parking is down by the tracks?
Yes. Yeah, originally the parking was along East Huntons Point Road, and that caused a bit of congestion on that road. It was recommended that that I move parking, so. And thank you, Robert, for letting us use the parking for as long as you have down by the field, or down by the railroad tracks.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion in support of this event.
And I'll second that.
Is there any more discussion?
All those in favor of the Green Mountain Bicycle Club Time Trial Series, May 16th, June 20th, and July 18th, as presented tonight?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great, thanks.
Thank you for your
Yeah,
time.
have a good event.
See you next year.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll talk about it.
Is someone here?
No. Jen Holiday sent an email about requesting to use the salt shed property for the Rover on August 3rd. And that's a Saturday. Asked Junior about it. And
Was this done last year?
It was done last year, yeah.
Well, that was the first time it worked out well?
It went well, yes.
Great. And you support doing it again?
No, it's a great service to the community.
Yeah.
Have it there. Good.
Yeah, no, that was moved down there because of the school. Because originally it was up by the Quonset hut.
Yeah, I think the school wanted it moved, somebody did, because of sometimes there's some hazards that have to be left there for a few days until they can send another truck down. So they didn't want it in the school. So.
Is there a motion?
I'll move. that we get-
And I'll second.
Second. Any more discussion? All those in favor of approving the Rover at the Salt Shed on Root Road for collection of hazardous waste Saturday, August 3rd, 2019, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great. Thank you again for hosting.
It's good, it's good.
Authorized request for bid, the town hall cleaning. Dean, do you want to
Did we
speak
forget
to
the petting?
this?
Did we?
Sure.
Forget to what?
Christina gave notice that she and Robert will not be continuing the cleaning contract after June 30th. So we went through the request for bids that was done previously. Is there something there?
Well, just on the back of the handout in our packet, there's an email from Vicky Abear.
Oh, right. The League of Cities and Towns, that she doesn't have any concerns about we have our insurance. It's not really insurance, but it's comparable to insurance through the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. And so I posed her the question, is there any concern about having Rover on town property? And she said no.
But what about the alpaca and donkey?
That's a different agenda item. We'll talk about that.
Can we bring them in here? Can we get to pet them?
The
as
alpaca,
therapy?
I don't know. They'll be at the senior center, maybe.
But that's not an issue for tonight?
No.
Okay, got it.
Okay, thank you.
So Christina and I went through the request for bids that was sent out, used a couple of years ago, and made some edits. Other than that, it's fairly straightforward. Some items are done, actually, at this point, I guess nothing's done monthly.
What's the time frame on this?
In terms of?
Needing to award the new bid by July 1st?
Yeah.
So relatively tight.
Yep.
My preference moving forward, if we can, this one is tight, and I don't think there's much we can do about it. But if I think we've learned anything from the ash tree bid proposal, I think all requests for bids, we should really have a meeting to look at to see how we can improve the section about the awarding criteria.
Because I believe in this contract, it states a 30-day notice is needed if you're not going to renew the contract. I think that's where I found it. It was a 30-day notice. And I gave you guys 45, so I thought I was doing a good thing.
Oh, yes, that is. I think it's more for us to.
Right, so you probably want to extend that and make it a 60 or a 90-day notice that the contract will not be renewed.
I personally don't have an issue with that. I think what's missing on a lot of the town RFPs is a section that really speaks to how the awarding will be done. Not speaking to the amount of time we need to put a bid out. So that's kind of a work in progress. And one of the things I wanted to take up at next week's meeting.
There still are things done monthly, because each zone for the dusting and the heating units and all of that, you rotate per zone on a monthly basis. So you
Okay.
end up with 4 zones,
Right.
so you do 1 a week.
Okay.
Are there major changes you wanted to speak to?
I don't,
Or Christina?
Not really, other than changing the mopping of the floors. In the wintertime, you want it done twice a week, not once. Bathrooms are absolutely horrible. The salt eats right straight through the wax, so you definitely want to make sure to mop more than once a week there. I typically clean the ceiling vents and dust the light fixtures real quick in the offices. That wasn't a part of it, so we added that on there.
Yeah.
Only because the cobwebs stand out. But I don't think there's really any major changes.
We're considering have-a-heart traps for our dust bunnies upstairs. That's a good idea.
Where do you release them?
Like them, take them to somebody else's house.
so we do ask for references, and that's, I think, the primary, I guess, selection criteria that we, it's not fail-safe. We have hired in the past, previous to Christina, some, cleaner that didn't work out. But that's, I guess, the main way of assisting with the selection process.
Okay, and it looks like the bid opening will be June 10th? Or-
Yeah, in order to allow reference check and then selection by June 24th.
Which is the next select board meeting.
But why at 8:40 at night when the bids come in at 6?
The agenda was already full.
Oh, okay, okay. I got it.
We thought you'd be the widest awake to be able to.
Okay.
Any other comments or edits?
Not yet, I'd like to look
Just
at
to
it.
thank Christina for a nice, clean
So you
building.
don't want to approve this tonight, next
Well,
week?
we just heard Christina say that there were some edits that needed to be done.
Well, they've already been done.
They've already
Dean and
been
I
done.
have already communicated, and I've already redlined it and handed it back to him, and he's made the notations in red for you to view.
This allows,
How come we have the library? How come the?
Originally, it was a combined contract, and then they split
Split
and
it.
did their own.
So if we approve this tonight, it'll be out, available for the public to bid on for almost a month. And if,
Until June 10th.
June 10th, yeah,
Yep.
2 days shy with 31 days in May.
I mean, I guess I plan to advertise in the Citizen and the Addison Independent.
Great, Front
And
Porch
Front
Forum?
Porch, sure.
That'd be great.
But both Citizen and Addison come out on Thursdays, so it won't actually be out until Thursday. So anyway, if you want to make minor changes until Thursday, we can do that.
I've reviewed this, I'm okay with it. How do other board members feel?
I'm gonna take the recommendation of Christina, because she's the one that's been doing it.
I think it's a good document. We've made the edits and changes, so I just think there were some minor things that needed to be tweaked.
Great, is there a motion to approve the request for bids?
I'll make a motion to approve the request for bids for the cleaning of the town hall and town offices.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks. So the bid for wastewater system maintenance, just a little bit of background. We, over the past, probably a couple of years, every 3 to 4 months, we have a bit of backing up into the toilets. And that's coming because of the new filters, which are perhaps more on the aggressive side. So what ends up happening is we have P&P come and they clean the filters, and then everything works great for another 3 or 4 months. In addition to that, we also have had the pump station alarm go off a few times, and we've had a technician go out and look at it, and what they recommended is more consistent maintenance of the whole system. And I think we've known that, but because it's so new, we haven't been faced with a real problem yet. So we haven't really had any system maintenance on a regular basis. So this would be a contract to go through, actually do the filters on a regular basis, and then look at the pump station and various parts of the system that Dave Marshall identified about 3 years ago that should be looked at. And it probably could be done by a firm similar to P&P. That's what I would imagine, to put it out to firms like that to bid on.
This would be for the fiscal year starting July 1?
It probably would be. There's not a real, other than trying to hit the July 1 date, there's not an urgency. We are dealing with a current pump station issue, but I think if you want to take more time with it, I actually recommend waiting until Fritz is back and have him weigh in on it. So I'm recommending actually not
And then the first year's contract, I think we've done this in the past, would basically be prorated and end at the next fiscal
Right.
year. So then it would be a clean year to year after that.
If it doesn't start on July 1st, then it
If
would be
it's in
prorated for
August or
Right.
September.
Yep.
Okay, and is this something that, you said we don't have an annual maintenance item budgeted in?
There
So that's something-
was some money put in the budget for this.
For this.
That was anticipated.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll look at this too. Great. So that's on our radar. The town mowing and land maintenance contract?
So, Chris Fortin, I talked to Rebecca Fortin on the phone on Friday, and she said that they will be doing all the trees. There had been a question, the mowing contractor thought that the way the mowing request for bids was worded, that they were not required to do trees. And I'll admit, it wasn't completely clear, so I think it can be improved upon. But there had been a question as far as whether they were responsible to do some trees, or the contractor that was
Doing the mulching.
Was supposed to do all the trees. So he said he will do all 127 trees.
Okay, I mean, I think that takes care of this year, but if before the next RFP cycle for this next spring, we could look at making those changes so that it's not new to us then, or revisit it then, that would be good.
Well, had we gone on a site visit prior to that, we
It's in the work plan.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you.
So no action needed here.
Yes.
The 820 agenda item. Approve minutes, edit and approve minutes.
We have a serious discrepancy between the two sets of minutes. One set of minutes, Matt, shows 4 votes in favor of the bid, and the second set of minutes shows 3, with 1 abstention and you voting opposed.
Against.
So there's an inconsistency between the 2 sets of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to correct one or the other of them.
Yes, and these are draft minutes, and so that's the opportunity that we have before these become permanent. The open meeting law requires within 3 days?
5 days.
5 days, draft minutes have to be posted in the form that they're received, and then the select board has the opportunity to amend the minutes in context and content. and correct them
Okay, so
as we see needed.
But given the interest around that issue, there's an inconsistency between the two sets of minutes.
So I think it's on the April 22nd. Do you have the line?
I think I do.
So you want to make a motion to approve the minutes of April 22nd as may be amended?
Is there a second for that? Second. Okay, so now we can go ahead and make amendments.
So for the April 22nd ones, I did make a couple of fairly minor edits that are shown in underlined strikeout.
Okay, do people see where Dean
Yes.
made proposed edits?
Matt, take a look at line 198. And compare that to line 94 on the May 1st minutes.
I did review the video and my memory.
Okay.
I would say the May 1st minutes are the accurate
All
ones.
right, okay, then we need to amend, if that's what is accurate, and your memory's better than mine, then we just need to amend the April,
The April 22nd, line 198.
yes, 198 needs to be amended.
3 ayes.
3 ayes.
1 nay.
And one abstaining.
And 1 abstain.
I don't remember. I'll send it. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Line 215, just a spelling of Representative Yantachka's name.
Just this third A, delete.
Or and the N?
What?
The N and the A? Yeah.
Yantachka.
Yantachka.
What?
Look it up. I don't think there's an extra N in there.
The NA,
Oh, sorry. You're right. In touch. You're right. And also the second N.
Yantachka.
Yes.
I'll put that in your dictionary.
Pretty much as it sounds. Oh, I see 224 spelling on Town Lake Trail. This trail AI. It happens. The spell check won't catch it
Why?
because it's a real word.
Oh, sorry.
Any other edits? All those in favor of approving the minutes of April 22nd, 2019 as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Did we ever have a vote to adjourn?
The plan commission meeting?
Yeah.
So select board.
This is planning commission.
It's
On
just
top of this.
the title of the April 22nd?
The title's right on the front, but every page after that says planning commission.
Select board. We'll just
And
switch that.
then it says the planning commission meeting was adjourned at 9:11. And there was, I don't see a vote. There's no,
3:49.
and there was no vote for the end of the meeting.
Maybe you could review that last vote for motion to adjourn. Pretty sure it was unanimous, but. Yeah? Is there a motion for May 1st as amended?
Motion to approve the minutes for May 1st as may be amended.
I'll second that.
Are there any edits?
What I said on line 87. Is I always look to small local businesses to fulfill the needs of the town. I didn't say always get my vote.
What do you want to read?
Want to change it?
Yes, I was changing it to explaining that I have always looked to small local businesses to fulfill the needs of the town. I was misquoted by Miss Foster.
Do you want to change it?
In the paragraph before, I'm thinking that Greg said those things. I think Bill had been involved with that discussion, but it was Greg that actually, I'll send you my,
Oh, in line 76 through 82, that paragraph.
does anyone know the names on line 164 and 171? I know it's, I think Anika Murat, I'm not sure if their first name is spelled that way.
We don't have a sign-in sheet.
She didn't, or her sign-in sheet wasn't legible.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All those in favor of approving the minutes from May 1st as amended, say aye.
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 Opposed? Select board updates.
I don't have anything.
I have one. I meant to bring it up at the last meeting, in a timely fashion, but we kind of there's a lot going on. A resident on Plouffe Lane contacted me about an agreement, an old standing agreement with the town. It's the site off Carpenter Road where the old town dump is, that's now capped and being monitored. It's currently also being used by the town in two capacities. One as an occasional stump dump and two for trails. And there's a mown path for the trails. And in that agreement, I think goes back to 2007 maybe. Basically, the town has committed that to maintain the surface of the road with the help of Junior's grader, and the private landowners on that road would provide any material capital needed, either gravel or culverts and any type of expenses that way. So Junior has done it as needed, and this year with all the rain and the deep frost, there were potholes in there that was going to be maybe a little more than I guess a regular schedule. So what we talked about with Junior is he's happy to grade it twice a year, just so that there's kind of be a regular thing, a spring and a fall maintenance, so that coming out of the frost season, it would get a spring schedule, and then prepping the road before it freezes up, while you can still work it to a fall schedule. And
Is there a written agreement with?
there is,
Oh,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
perfect.
And so, but what I did want to do when it comes time for the budget season is, just looking at Junior's budget, and he's kept a level funded budget for many years in a row. I don't want to continue to saddle more expectations on that budget without raising it. I think it's admirable that he continues to present the level budget, so I wouldn't ask him to raise that. It seems like most of the town use traffic impact is coming from the parking, the trails parking, and stump dump, so thinking they could split, one grading each. And so I asked Junior, how much would it cost to use a grader to grade a driveway that length? And his thought was somewhere around like $135. 130, without a moving charge of getting the equipment. So he'd kind of line it up with grading Carpenter Road when he's doing that, and it could kind of just be a synergy.
I gave him 2 brownies the other day when he was down on Whaley Road. Didn't I give you 2 brownies?
Gave me 2 cookies.
2 cookies, they weren't brownies, okay.
Just to clarify. on
Clarify, no, we
record,
were wrong
yeah.
about the brownies. They were snickerdoodles.
So that's a minor update, but I just wanted to let you know that,
Yep.
that happened, and, it's kind of Junior's discretion at this point. It really wasn't a board decision, but I just wanted to kind of keep everyone in the loop on that. Then looking forward, maybe we could talk about a May 20 or next week meeting. I was thinking May 20th, Monday, but if Monday doesn't work, I think.
I'm good next week anytime.
Should be fine.
And Carrie?
Mine has to be Monday.
Monday, great. So it looked like 5:30 was going to be a
5:30
stretch.
site visit.
Can you? We could do a
Yeah,
5:45 site
we
visit?
can try.
Okay. So we'll do a 5:30.
They mark it, I can go down earlier.
Okay.
One of your select board members already has a meeting at 5:30 that day, 5:30 to 7, the opposite Mondays from what you told me. So you might want to let Fritz know that he's going to have to be in 2 places at once.
Where do you guys meet?
Well, we meet right here. We can meet in the side room too, but again, one of our committee members is also one of your members, so.
Does your committee operate without him
We can.
functionally? Okay.
Yep, but we're definitely, we operate the opposite Mondays from you guys, so just for future reference, whenever you guys are doing an off schedule.
Special meeting
We pretty much have booked the other Monday.
every other Monday. Okay, that
Yeah.
sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
I think the items on that agenda, just going, speaking out loud, and I'll have Dean send a draft agenda, would be the site visit to review a possible ramp at Charlotte Beach, discuss actionable items from tonight's meeting for road safety improvements. We'll review a draft MOA for between the library, the town, and the Friends of the Library, and have an opportunity to talk about it, offer edits, kind of, without having that time to really work the draft, without having to make a decision on that. And have an agenda item to take a crack at any improvements to the request for proposals that we could kind of look at adding to all RFPs. And then approve a design and contract for the town beach playground.
Does League of Cities and Town have guidance on RFPs?
I can ask.
Okay, because we're going
Yeah.
to kind of take a
Yes.
hard look, then we should.
I think that would be good. We could also pull some standard RFPs that the school district has used
Okay.
on larger, projects. I think they put a lot of time and energy, legal work into those RFPs also.
Good.
So it'll be, there's a lot of meat to that meeting, but I think waiting 3 weeks would be too long.
Do you want discussion back here on the ramp, or is it just,
Yes, yep,
Okay.
let's do that too, thank you.
that might be first or not?
Sure,
Okay.
yeah, that seems to work well.
Maybe do the ramp and then playground? Get the recreation stuff done?
Yes, that'd be great. There may also be a highway access permit, possibly. I guess Junior was enlightening me. A while back, the town made a policy change that if someone wants to use an agricultural access, highway access to the town roads and turn it into a residential one, they need to go through the application process as if it were a new one. to convert that. So that may be coming down the pike. I don't know if it'll be ready for the May 20 meeting, but if it is, then that would be also something we'd add to the packet.
Site visit?
And the site visit. So we could go beach, highway access permit, Guinea Road, or Guinea Road Beach. Do people have a preference if it comes up? East to west, west to
Probably
east?
go to Guinea Road first.
Guinea Road first.
Okay,
What's
sure.
Guinea Road?
The possible highway access permit if it comes in.
If it comes
I also received an inquiry, and I don't know whether it's gonna be ready, about possible access on Mount Fowler Road. But
Okay.
it hasn't been submitted yet, so.
Okay, hopefully not. That's a lot of driving around.
See Charlotte?
Sounds good.
I don't think I'll be here on the June 3rd meeting.
Okay. Thank you. So if there's no other select board updates, there is a personnel issue. Because it is a personnel issue, executive session, I think is mandatory. That we do not expect there to be any actionable items after this. So I think if VCAM would like to sign off, that would be great. Thank you for joining us. And what's that?
Me too? Yes.
Yes, absolutely. We do
We'll let you know
that
if there's any.
regularly. Yeah.
Okay.
And is there a motion to
Adjourn?
enter
Oh, I think-
executive
yes.
session?
I'll make a motion to enter executive session.
To discuss a personnel issue?
Second.
I'd like to invite Nicole and Dean to join us. And
All in favor?
all in favor?
Yes.
Say aye.
Aye.
Aye?